Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
You know what happens to every single holdout? They eventually end.
And Brandon Schultz.
Not going to happen with Richard Sherman, though, because now he's his own agent. It's ruining everything.
Go Hawks!
This is episode 192 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
I didn't realize we were closing in on 200.
We're getting there. I don't know what we're going to do for 200, but I feel like we should.
I got an idea.
Yeah?
Let's do a show.
We should do a show.
Yeah.
Let's not skip 200.
I don't want to raise expectations any higher. That's all we're going to do.
Okay.
Just a regular off-season show that you listen to begrudgingly. That's what we're going to do for you guys.
I feel like getting there is special enough. It's like Valentine's Day. Like I was present.
Oh no, you got to get desperate and go out.
Okay. Coming back once again on the show this week, Samuel Gold of Contributor to Field Goals. He wrote an article about Brian Schottenheimer's passing scheme, and I thought it would be good, Adam, to bring him on and get an outside perspective, because as we know, Samuel Gold is actually a Washington fan, a fan of the Redskins, and for his work for Field Goals, he broke it down for us and let us know that no, we probably shouldn't be excited about Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't. I wasn't unimpressed when they hired him for no reason. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But we are going to get into his vertical passing game that he has a tendency toward, and he even offers a reason for optimism. So at least we have that. He's gonna
die in a plane crash. We're gonna get somebody else.
I think that's no.
Oh, that's not the reason for optimism.
No.
Oh,
so we're going to get into a discussion with Samuel Gold this week. Also, why the Seahawks need to go fishing.
Yeah. They're fishing for a specific fish.
Brown trout.
That is technically a fish, yes.
Well, we got some Legion of Boom drama, too, that I think we need to talk about. Yeah.
Another offseason with some Legion of Boom drama. Yeah. I'm sure it's real.
Every single dude is bringing drama to this team in the offseason, Adam.
It's all true drama, too, I'm sure.
All true. And we have a trip to Prisco's world this week.
Oh, thank God.
It's not about the Seahawks necessarily, but I still think it's worthy of a trip.
Fair enough. I'm looking forward to it. I've been getting a little stir crazy sitting in my living room for the past few weeks here in February. This is the worst time of year in Missoula. And so a trip to Prisco's world will do me really well.
Wait, I'm just questioning the fact that Prisco's world is actually a vacation comparatively.
Well, it is, right? I just need to go somewhere. So
you just need to get out of the house.
Right.
All right, Adam. Well, let's kick things off this week by talking a little bit about the defensive line. The next-gen pass rush stats are out from the season, and top three teams this year. Number one, of course, your Super Bowl champion Eagles. Number two, the Skins. Number three, your Seattle Seahawks, with top pass rusher being Michael Bennett with 59 pressures. And the way Next Gen Stats defines pressures is if a defensive lineman gets within 2 yards of the quarterback. Kind of interesting to think that the Seahawks they didn't maybe put up the sack numbers, but that they had that kind of pressure on the quarterback all season.
Yeah, I think that kind of played out to be true throughout the entire season. I always felt like they were getting close to the quarterback, but not a lot of finishing. So one thing that makes me wonder about this whole ranking right here is no Vikings.
Vikings were top 10. They were number 10. Everson Griffin had 62 pressures. He was up there. Chandler Jones had 66.
This list doesn't count.
It doesn't count if the Vikings are top 10?
I'm sorry. If they need to be at least top 5. And the Redskins were number 2?
The Skins are number 2, yeah.
Yeah, okay then.
Now, they didn't have... Ryan Kerrigan was their top guy. There were only 1 of 12 teams that had 40-plus sacks this year.
Well, that's fine and dandy. I'm just telling you what I saw when I watched the game. And when it comes to pass rushes, the Minnesota Vikings was an elite unit.
You can't really discount this list because it is what it is. It's data. It's players that got within 2 yards of the quarterback.
I could 50% of all statistics are misleading.
Well, I'm not saying that it says who's the best. It's saying this is the data of who got closest to the quarterback the most often.
I'm just saying that there's no way in hell that the Redskins pass rush was better than the Vikings pass rush, in my mind, from what I watched.
Do you think their definition of pressure is wrong, getting within 2 yards of the quarterback?
Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, 2 yards is a long ways.
So maybe it needs to be closer.
That's like your standard Eddie Lacy run, 2 yards.
That's a good Eddie Lacy run.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there was the rushing statistics that came out here saying just how terrible that the Seahawks were at running the football.
The Seahawks were bad at that?
Yeah. It turns out bottom 5 in the league, and I think bottom 2 when it came to attempts up the middle. Yards per attempt up the middle before contact, 0.81
Yeesh.
average. And the worst was Detroit Lions, 0.5.
So say that one more time. Just so I can let that sink in.
Okay, so this is yards before contact per attempt. So this is how far you get before somebody puts their hands on you.
Right.
And running up the middle, the Seahawks were 0.8 yards.
Huh. So probably makes a lot of sense to go after another back instead of maybe more offensive linemen again.
Especially dudes up the middle, because I mean that's where the Seahawks tend to run the football.
Yeah, if you're going to smash them in the mouth, if you're going to control a game through the running game, you have to be able to run it up the middle. It can't be just a bunch of edge runs. It doesn't work. Like the whole point of it is that you're dominating, is that they have no way to say no to what you're doing. You just jelly it right down their throat. And you can't do that if you basically take a half a skip step and then get plowed by a dude.
Or just immediately tackled as you're getting the ball, because this isn't average.
Yeah, 0.8, that's abysmal.
Yeah, 0.8 up the middle, 1.3 to the left, and 1.27 to the right.
Okay.
Not much better. League leader of yards before contact per attempt up the middle, LA Rams, 3 yards.
Really? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Except you think of Andrew Whitworth being their big offseason dude, and that's on the left side.
I'd have to go back and look at their line. I can't remember all the moves they made, but I feel like they changed a couple cogs there.
They're number 2 overall, too.
That line had a good year. I'll be curious to see if they can keep that up for 2 years in a row. It feels a little Raidersy. Remember the Raiders line like 2 years ago, and they were dominant, and the next year not so good?
Now, Whitworth is going to be, 37, 36 this year?
Oh, no, he's going to be like 58. Something like that. Maybe 74. I don't know. Somewhere in that range.
He's getting up there, though.
Exactly.
And this whole article is disappointing to me. Bottom 5. I mean, it puts us down there with Detroit, Miami, who, didn't their O-line coach get busted for snorting coke like 5 weeks into the season?
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Indy at the bottom. Arizona without David Johnson. They were terrible.
David Johnson without, anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was tough on them.
So those were your bottom 4.
Huh.
I don't know if we've talked about this at all, but I think the Seahawks need to work on getting the run game going next year. It's kind of like the offensive line discussion in previous years. Just don't be the worst. Be kind of in the middle.
Okay. So just a slight improvement up to normalcy?
Like 15. If they could be 15 in the run game, have Russell Wilson have a healthy season, have the offensive line kind of middle of the pack, I feel that would be okay.
Right. I think that could work as long as you let Brian Schottenheimer coordinate the run game and we bring in somebody to be the pass game coordinator. Kind of the opposite of the way it worked with Bevel and Cable.
Yeah, well, it's interesting hearing the discussion about, we have the discussion coming up with Samuel Gold here, and it turns out not a whole lot of difference in the way Darrell Bevel and Brian Schottenheimer approached the deep passing game.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing that discussion because it's just nice when somebody who's smart like Sam comes on and he's like, yeah, what you said earlier, that's when I went and looked it up and everything. Totally, that's how it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
And before we get there, let's talk a little bit about franchise tags and transition tags, because this week coming up, the Seahawks will, this will be the first chance that teams have to place franchise tags, transition tags on players. Not a whole lot of guys on the Seahawks where you would expect them to do that. I think Jimmy Graham would be one guy where you could maybe if they were going to keep him. That's a guy that you could consider. And then the other one would be Sheldon Richardson.
I'd say Richardson is totally in play for that. As far as Jimmy goes, I'd really be stunned.
It would make him, I think, the top paid tight end at around $12 million because it's 20% over your previous year. And that seems like a steep price to pay, but it would also, the benefit would be with either player is that you'd have one more year to evaluate.
And I think under that logic, you've seen Jimmy Graham now for a number of years, and you've only seen Sheldon for one. So out of the two of them, to buy that time to get that extra evaluation, it seems like it'd be more worth it for Sheldon, who I thought played great and I think is an amazing fit. Look, if you're going to continue to try to build an elite defense and the team around that, like, definitely give Sheldon Richardson his money.
And a one-year deal, just with all of the speculation about, well, he's going to be the type of guy that once he gets paid, then you could see his production go motivation down. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
That takes that out of play, at least for another year.
Heck yeah. No, I'd be in on that, man.
I just think that there's so many other ways to spend the money, like offensive line.
Hey, wait, isn't that my line?
I know.
Okay.
But it is.
I agree with you there as well. Just getting rid of Jimmy frees up a lot of your cap space right there.
Well, it's really, there's 14 million according to most of the salary cap sites. And that's without releasing the guys who are under contract, like Jeremy Lane and Cliff Averill.
So basically, it's still infinity?
Right.
Because I'm not convinced that there is an actual salary cap. I don't understand how it works. I've never seen the Seahawks get up against it. Like, I've never, I don't, it's all fictional.
It was pretty close this year. They had some struggles with it this year. You don't think that
if they needed to move it up just a little bit again, like they would somehow have figured out a way? They say, they're magic. It's a magic cap.
Well, one way to save some money against the cap would be to re-sign Earl Thomas.
Right.
And watching the news and seeing Seahawks fans, I'm worried about our fellow Seahawks fans.
Yes.
And the articles that they see because they're so...
They could be panic-inducing.
They're panic-inducing, and they can be they can make you furious.
Yes.
Because I
can feel your rage. I can feel the rage right now, Brandon.
Well, when I see headlines about Joel Corey talking about, the Earl Thomas holdout talk continuing, one, Earl Thomas has never once used the word holdout. His quote where this is all based around is when he was at the Pro Bowl and he was asked a question about the Seahawks. He says, I want to finish my career there. I definitely don't see myself going out there not signed, but I'm going to continue to work my butt off and enjoy this process at the Pro Bowl. As far as my future in Seattle, I think if they want me, money talks, we'll get something accomplished. Other than that, I'm just taking it one day at a time here. Or I'm just taking it one day at a time. And I think where people are getting hung up on is that I don't see myself going out there not signed.
Right.
Well, that can mean not just that that doesn't necessarily mean holdout. That could mean I see a contract getting done this offseason.
Correct.
And that's exactly how I read it, because if you're Earl Thomas, you expect to stay with the team and you expect a contract to get done within 1 year left of you're in that window.
Absolutely. And he does have some trust with this organization. I mean, look at all of the star players that have come up for their second and third contracts. Like, John Schneider has not done any of them dirty.
Yeah.
Like, he really has come through for people who have played for the team and done everything that has been asked of them. And I'd be surprised if there was a holdout because he wasn't signed before training camp. I honestly would be surprised. Now, let's say it's true. Let's say that means that Earl Thomas has just got it in his mind that he's going to hold out like Cam a couple years back.
Okay, let's say that.
Well, so what? Like, if you're a player, that's what you do if you're trying to negotiate a higher contract. That's the game. This is a business. It makes no sense. Like, you know what happens to every single holdout? They eventually end.
Well, even with Dwayne Brown, it ended.
Exactly.
It didn't end well. Well, maybe it did end well for him.
Yeah, I think it did. At the end of the day, he's going to get paid. Like, yeah, it's unbelievable to me. These storylines are just so ridiculous. I mean, trying to find a story out of an innocuous statement. And you know what? I feel bad for Earl Thomas. He said a lot of stuff just kind of talking lately that people have taken and run with to preposterous heights.
You know what? I could see him doing the Marshawn Lynch treatment after a season off season like this.
Yeah.
Because, if I'm going to say these things and you're just going to take it and completely blow it out of proportion from what I said with the Cowboys thing, there's nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
There's nothing malicious about what he said. But the way it's blown up within these articles among, sports writers, then fans, they feel like they should take it personally.
I would. And there's a weird thing going on with the media here. Like, they are actively seeking to try to break up the LOB.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like and I don't say it like it's a conspiracy, like they all get together and they're like, hey, Pete, Pete Prisco's talking to, like Chris Wessling. Hey, man, like, we got to break up the Seahawks LOB. Let's start writing articles about it and blah, blah, blah. And so dissent. No, it's not like that. It's more like the whole national media as a whole just kind of have a shared feeling that it's just time for these guys to break it all up. And so they're going to try to write stories as if that's going to happen. It's very odd.
It is. It is a little bit odd. I was looking at ESPN and it was the title that pulled up in my feed is End of an Era for Seahawks, Offseason Moves for the NFC West. And I scroll down expecting to see, make sure cut Kam Chancellor and trade Earl Thomas and, get rid of Richard Sherman. Like that's what I expected when they're talking about end of an era. Well, They're talking about cutting Jeremy Lane. They're talking about re-signing Earl Thomas. They're talking about, they mention it maybe being a little too early to re-sign Richard Sherman. Mm-hmm. So what's the end of the era thing? Because this is the era of the Legion of Boom. What? So they're teasing it in the headline, and then you go to the article, and it's just talking about regular moves of what the Seahawks should do.
I mean, I get it. It's silly season. You got to try to fill content and everything. But yeah, here's the thing that's very odd about all this to me. I don't recall back when that Steelers defense started to age with Troy Polamalu and like Ike Taylor and James Harrison, who's still playing.
Right.
That whole iteration of that team. I remember them playing into their mid-30s before people started saying, oh, they're starting to slip. Now you got to start to break this up and like all that. I mean, these guys,
they're in their late 20s.
These guys are all in their late 20s and are just starting to turn 30. And like now the talk's here.
Cam's 29?
Yes. Which I understand given his injury.
Sure.
That changes things. But the nature of that injury. But even with that said, why is everybody writing off the last 5-6 productive years of these guys' careers?
And I can understand with Cam a little bit because of what Pete Carroll said at the end of the year about how it was going to be hard for him to come back, that it was going to be really difficult for Kam Chancellor to come back. But we saw just this last week, Ian Rappaport tweeting out about the idea that Cam does intend to play in 2018 if he gets medically cleared. Now, it could be a big if, but the fact that he intends to play, the fact that Richard Sherman's coming off an Achilles, he's going to play, and Earl Thomas is still Earl Thomas, that we're still going to have another year of the Legion of Boom if things go well with the medical clearance for Kam Chancellor.
Yeah, I mean, here are your certainties. Earl Thomas is getting re-signed. Richard Sherman is going to play next year as a Seahawk the whole year. He's not getting traded. It's nothing like that. He'll probably end up renegotiating his contract with the team throughout the course of the year before the year's up, just like Doug Baldwin, just like Cliff Haverhill, just like Michael Bennett, just like every other contract that's come up like this.
Not going to happen with Richard Sherman, though, because now he's his own agent. It's good. It's ruining everything.
Oh, you're right.
There's no way he's going to be able to re-sign with the Seahawks now that he's his own agent.
Right. Remember how Russell Okun had the Brinks truck backed up to him twice after being his own agent, leaving Seattle?
Yeah.
Boy, that really didn't work out for him at all.
That contract for Denver was so terrible. It was so bad. It
was so bad that he got millions and millions of dollars to play one season and then got to sign another contract with the Chargers for more guaranteed money. Well, that didn't work out for him at all. Oh, and it's so odd considering that he is keeping all that money that he would normally pay his agent in his pocket.
Yeah.
That can't possibly work.
That can't work. No, it's a terrible idea. The fact that Russell Okung's the highest paid left tackle, terrible for him.
He obviously doesn't know what he's doing. And
obviously,
I'm not trying to sit here and say that every player should be their own agent. Like, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that if I was a player, that I probably shouldn't be my own agent.
Yeah.
I just know that about me. Like, that's, contracts and numbers and all that, and like very specific things like that, detail oriented things like that.
Yeah.
That's not a strength of mine. I mean, I can get through it if I'd have to, but that's not a strength of mine. I mean, think of Russell Okung and Richard Sherman and the types of personalities and the people that they are. Those are two highly intelligent guys that have a propensity to do something along these lines.
And they're into that world
okay.
as far as being player reps and that sort of thing. That's one of their interests.
It's not lost on them. Like they have previous experience,
It's like if you're a business owner and you happen to go, get a 4-year degree in accounting. Like, you're going to do your own taxes. Mm-hmm. But there's some people that have no interest in accounting. Those are the people that are going to hire accountants.
Right. Yeah. But no, it's a total disaster. So look, Richard Sherman's going to play for sure. Earl Thomas is going to play for sure. And you know what? If I was a betting man, I would put money on Kam playing.
I think he's going to make it back.
I want to find the person that tells Kam no. I want to see the doctor that walks in and tells Kam, nope, not going to be able to do it.
Not going to be able to play.
I think they're going to be back. And I think it's going to be a huge year for them. And I think it's going to be the big rebound Cinderella story of the season next year that the media can't get enough of. And then they'll switch this whole narrative back right on its head about how, the LOB only gets better with age and it's a band of brothers that can't possibly be broken up and blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what's going to happen. You heard it here first, folks. That's what's going to happen.
You heard it here first.
Wrong. Yeah.
Well, there's one problem with that, and that's people outside of Seattle love to hate the LOB versus see it as a potentially positive story.
Well, here's the thing, right? When a player or a group of players becomes older, like it shifts from the hate oftentimes to like reverie.
Yeah.
Where like everybody's like, yeah, I never really liked those guys, but they've been around for a while, and you've seen enough interviews with them and stuff. And you're like, I don't generally hate them. Like, I respect them. They've accomplished some things. That's a cool group, bunch of Hall of Famers, and
they haven't won multiple rings at this point. Whereas a guy like Tom Brady, you look at and you go, well, he's won enough. He can retire.
He's been to 8 Super Bowls. I've had enough Tom Brady.
Whereas a guy like Brett Favre, think of Brett Favre toward the end of his career. It's like, yeah, maybe I didn't really like Brett Favre, but here he is with Minnesota, and here he has another chance to get a ring with the Vikings. Mm-hmm. Kind of rooting for it.
Yeah, exactly. I loved Brett Favre, but by the end of it, like, I was over Brett Favre.
Well, especially all the drama with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He kind of got tired of him trying to decide if he was going to retire or not.
There's my official bold prediction in the offseason right there. The LOB all plays with the new addition of Shaq Griffin or Deshaun Shedd as the opposite starting corner, and they have a prolific year, and the media bows down to them all year long. Kisses their butt.
All right, Adam, well, what do you say we get to this interview with Samuel Gold? We'll come back, and we'll take the trip to Prisco's world.
Okay, sounds like a plan, man. I'm really looking forward to this.
All right, well, let's bring on Samuel Gold of Sam's Film Room, contributor to Field Goals. His YouTube channel is Samuel Gold NFL, and you can follow him on Twitter at Samuel R. Gold. He wrote a recent article there on Field Goals titled What Brian Schottenheimer's Passing Scheme Could Look Like. So we're bringing him on the show to talk a little bit about it. Sam, welcome back.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Well, Sam, you recently broke down Brian Schottenheimer's offense. Going back and looking at his time with the Rams. What was your takeaway from doing that?
There's some interesting points about Brian Schottenheimer is that he did have multiple schemes in his different times, say with like the Jets and the Rams. With the Rams in particular, It was one of those zone stretch offenses where he did a lot with, he had an outside zone running game, he did inside zones, and then he occasionally mixed in a power play as well. But more or less, the entire offense, a lot of it's based on very vertical passing game. And that's something that we actually had some of that here in Seattle with Darrell Bevell. Now, Bevell did mix in a bunch of the quick game passing concepts that I really like, kind of like the short slant flat concepts, the short routes that basically allow Russell Wilson to get the ball out early. And that's something that I did not see that much or really at all in Brian Schottenheimer's. His was 5-step drop, 7-step drop, shotgun, 5-step drop. It's a lot of deep passing. And while I think Wilson can do that, man, oh man, this line, I'm so nervous about the line.
Did you see anything with the Rams? I trying to remember, 2, 3, 4 years back how the Rams offensive line was. Now, they were never able to really find a left tackle. Was there anything that you saw that suggested that they could have success with maybe a subpar offensive line?
I mean, and that's kind of an interesting point. I think that they actually had a decent amount of success. Now, I'm going to say this with a huge asterisk. They had a decent amount of success with the players that they had on the team.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the quarterback position, they had Austin Davis and Shaun Hill. You're not going to get very far with Austin Davis and Shaun Hill.
Well, and that's why I have such a hard time even looking back at any of Brian Schottenheimer's career, whether you go back to when he was with the Jets or during his time with the Rams, because the level of, he never has had the talent that Darrell Bevell had during his time as offensive coordinator for the Seahawks.
Exactly. And he's getting definitely a better team in terms of skill positions. And I mean, I would even say running game too. And that's hard to say that because it's Zach Stacy, Benny Cunningham, Trey Mason, Chase Reynolds. It's a bunch of randos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a few of these guys had a couple big games here and there, but you don't talk about these guys anymore because they've been out of the league for a while. And it's not saying the Seahawks running game is good. It's as far not good as possible.
Right.
It's just that I think that there is more talent on this team, especially with the wide receiving core and especially with the quarterbacking, that they can actually make something out of it, just having those as a threat as well. I think that will help them open up the running game.
Well, you mentioned the vertical passing concepts. So let's stick with the running game, though. How different is the concepts that he runs with the run game different from what Darrell Bevell does? So
they both run a zone blocking scheme. Tom Cable, he ran a lot of inside zone, kind of like as one of his main moves. It was inside zone, and then he kind of paired that with Russell Wilson as a zone read option player, maybe a few times a game. It wasn't every play like everyone thinks. It was only a few times a game. And what his goal was he was trying to use that in a backside, kind of like a backside zone play in order to get the running back to the back of the defense to create holes. And while it worked occasionally, I did not like how the play was set up blocking wise. It was a lot more horizontal blocking than you expect from an inside zone running game. Usually with inside zone running, it's you take a zone step and then you start going vertically to basically trick a defensive line to push forward, and then you cut behind them. But a lot of what Cables was doing was they kind of kept progressing east-west in order to try to convince them that they're going to run outside zone, and then you try to hand the ball off backside and try to cut that back. It works occasionally, and when it worked really well. But I'm a huge traditionalist, and I just didn't really like it in the sense of I want my outside zone to set up my inside zone, and I want it to be run a specific way that Alex Gibbs, who founded zone running game, I want it to be run that way. And I never got the feeling, and maybe it's because the front side blocking of the offensive line, the tackles and tight ends in particular, they couldn't hold their edge, so he realized I probably shouldn't run outside zone anymore. But in my opinion, it was kind of like that lack of identity in terms of I never got the feeling that a defense was stretched out enough in order to execute a good inside zone running play.
And for those who don't know, could you explain inside zone versus outside zone and maybe the different types of talent that would lend success toward one versus the other?
Yeah, and I mean, so outside zone is just a play in the zone blocking scheme, and same with inside zone. But usually, so outside zone is just a zone running play where The offensive linemen take a zone step. So every single one of them should, if you're going to the right, every single one of them will take a step to the right. And then the running back will press to the edge and read that blocking from outside to in. So what he'll do is he'll be like, all right, there's an end man on the line of scrimmage. It's usually a defensive end or it's like an outside linebacker. If you're running against a 3-4, and you'll say, depending on his leverage on the offensive lineman, the running back will cut. Either way, he'll go either outside and he'll bounce it, or he'll cut inside and bend it. And so that's one of those things where it's, and then from there, he'll read the next guy, and then it's either you take that hole or you cut behind him. And so and that's kind of how the zone running scheme works in essence. And so power blocking is done the opposite, where you're actually reading inside to outside. But anyways, going back to the zone running scheme, outside zone and inside zone are just plays involving zone blocking. The footwork's just slightly different. And then it's very, very minor, but also the running back takes a different angle at the line of scrimmage, where in outside zone running play, he's aiming for where the tight end is on the outside, whereas an inside zone running game, you're aiming for the outside of the guard on the play side of where you're trying to run it. They look very similar on tape. You can say, all right, this is zone blocking, and just check it off as zone. And the only difference is that it's where this play is trying to hit the defensive line.
In terms of going back to the personnel, though, I wonder if the signing of Schottenheimer signals any changes to you for particular Seahawks personnel, whether it's on the offensive line, whether it's receivers, maybe the tight end. I know there's been a lot of speculation of whether or not the Seahawks will keep or move on from Jimmy Graham. And based on what you've seen Schottenheimer's style be, what are the indicators on maybe some of the personnel movement we might be able to expect?
So it's Schottenheimer's scheme, and the personnel he uses in the formations are as pro style as you can get. He's lining out a single back a lot. He's lining out of I formation a lot. He has the quarterback under center a lot, and especially in the run game. And that's something that, honestly, with Darrell Bevell and that offense with Tom Cable, it didn't work. And that's kind of something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, is that if you're running a pure kind of like a more traditional pro style system, you need offensive linemen that can block. And I don't see there being a huge difference in the type of offensive lineman that they look for, or that they're trying to use for this scheme, because it's still the same zone blocking. But the difference is that my hope is that Mike Solari will help coach them better so that they can execute the plays better. So I think that's probably the biggest difference, is that you have different coaches, even though I think the scheme is going to be, at least in the running scheme, is going to be pretty similar. Maybe you'll see more end arounds. Maybe you'll see, I don't know, I guess maybe you'll see just a couple more power plays per game. But I don't see a vast difference in the running game as of right now.
When I think of a pro style offense, I think of an offense with a fullback. Are we going to maybe see more of that in the run game? Because I feel like we had a lot more success when we actually ran with a fullback.
And that's kind of an interesting question, is whether or not he'll keep Trey Madden, or whether or not he'll use Luke Wilson as the fullback like Darrell Bevell did back at the end of the season. And so from my studying of the 2014 Rams, which is kind of where I base my knowledge on the Schottenheimer system based off of, he actually used a fullback a good percentage of his running plays. He really liked that two-back system, where if you're in I formation, you have your quarterback, you have your fullback, then you have your running back, and then the fullback will read the play exactly like the running back will. And so his goal is basically to read read the same play, and then he'll either kick out the end, or he'll follow it up and lead into a linebacker and create that hole. And we didn't actually see a ton of that with the Seahawks this year, but he used the fullback a lot in his offense. And truthfully, I didn't really like it when Bevell and Cable used the fullback very much. It didn't really work. There was a ton of miscommunication. I have a few clips I want to say it was a Texans game, where you had both the tight end and the fullback on the play side of a zone blocking play, and neither of them blocked Jadeveon Clowney. It was like the most frustrating thing I've ever watched. Is you have one of their best players, probably their best player on the team since J.J. Watt was injured, and they didn't block him. He was the only guy they didn't block.
Wow.
And he's just like, all right, well, I guess I'll just destroy the running back. And he did. Like, it was like a 6-yard loss. It was awful.
Well, I look at one of the first moves, too, that the Seahawks made after they failed to make the playoffs. They went out and signed Jalston Fowler, a fullback from Tennessee, played with Tennessee for the last 3 years. So I feel like that's a move, too, toward a more traditional fullback.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious if they'll keep him or if there'll be a training camp competition between him and Trey Madden, because they still have both on the roster.
Yeah.
Or if, as I kind of mentioned earlier, maybe they like Luke Wilson back there also.
Yeah, and that's another one of those things where both Jimmy Graham's going to be a free agent, Luke Wilson's going to be a free agent. Are they going to keep both guys? I'm really interested to see how this goes, because I think if you're going to if your focus of the offseason is to improve the running game, I don't see keeping Jimmy Graham. But then I look at some of the plays where and some of the passing concepts that you looked at in your article on field goals. I think, well, maybe they do keep Jimmy Graham around.
Yeah, I mean, he would look really good in that offense in the vertical stretch passing game. You'd actually probably do really well up the seams or in design outs, and I think he could do really well as a featured premier tight end. And we've seen that we're on the games where Bevel schemed and used him as that premier mismatch. He had big games. What did he have? 1,000 yards last year, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, he was just short of 1,000 yards last year. This year he was like under 500, but he had all the touchdowns. They actually figured out a way to use him in the red zone.
Right, and he had 923 yards last year, and he looked really good. And that's more of what I would expect if he stayed, is that kind of that 800, 900 yard range. I don't think he'll ever break 1,000 yards again, just because I feel like the Seahawks spread the ball out so much because they have so many different avenues they can do with either Tyler Lockett or Doug Baldwin or Jimmy Graham or a running back like Procise or J.D. McKissick. I feel like he would do really well in the system. The problem is that do you want to spend $9 to $10 million a year keeping him?
That's a tough call.
You also have to factor in a replacement tight end, even an above average or even an average tight end. They're still making $5 or $6 million a year.
Right.
Yeah, you have. Vernon Davis had a $5 million per year contract. Red Ellison got $4.5 million per year with the Giants. So it's not like they're underpaid. It's just that it's not like Jimmy Graham's really overpaid. It's just that he's a premier player at his position. No matter what Seahawks fans think of him, he's still a very valuable player, and he's going to get paid that much. Or my guess is somewhere around $9 million a year. Maybe like a 2-year contract or something like that, just because of his age. But you would spend that, or do you get a cheaper one, or do you get a one in the draft and save the money because you don't want to spend on the position? It's going to be an interesting offseason, to say the least.
Well, and not only do you have Jimmy Graham to have to make a decision on in the offseason, but then you have Paul Richardson as well. And when I think of this vertical passing game, I think of what Paul Richardson was able to do this last year. And because he was essentially the guy who took on that role of the guy Russell Wilson could just throw it up to downfield. And he, more often than not, he was coming down with the football. Exactly.
And that's one of the few wide receivers that can do that for this offense, since Jermaine Kearse wasn't there this year and Amara Darboh is still learning. He took on that role of that vertical threat passing game where he'd jump up and grab those ridiculous catches and he'd be there. I can't see him getting paid a ton of money. I think he'll end up somewhere in that $5 to $6 million range. I think a lot of people will see his last year as kind of like this is his breakout year. He's going to perform at that level and we're going to add him to our system. I don't know how much I believe that personally, but I think he'll probably get paid somewhere in that $5 million range, $6 million range per year.
It's hard for me to see the Seahawks. I guess if you're going to, you can't do both Jimmy Graham and Paul Richardson. Maybe you don't do either, but
that's the other question. They only have $14 million right now in cap space.
Right.
You can't sign both unless you cut somebody else. And I'm looking over the list right now, and the only people that I can see them actually cutting, and this is sad to say this because it's Cliff Averill.
Right.
And his cap hit is $7.6 million this year, and his dead money's $500,000. So they would get $7.1 million in savings just by cutting him. And it's sad to say that because I really like Cliff Averill.
Yeah, him and Jeremy Lane are probably the two guys on defense. But then you're still, I guess based on what they've spent on the defensive side of the football, it has to start trending more toward the offensive side.
Yeah,
so maybe that wouldn't be as much of a surprise. But just knowing Pete Carroll, they get the most success from the team is by spending on the defensive side, clearly. And if you're going to spend on the offensive side, I'm kind of leaning toward the offensive line.
Yeah, you would hope that you'd get some good offensive linemen in free agency this year. I'm actively looking right now to see if there's any premier players. Maybe Nate Solder.
Yeah, Andrew Norwell and Nate Solder, I think, are the two.
Those are the two for me as well.
Yeah. It's a pretty rough year for top tier linemen.
Gary Gilliam, do you want him back?
No, and he's what, like the top rated in the top 5 of right tackles. That's how bad the right tackle market is this offseason.
Last year was the market for an offensive lineman. To overspend on an above average offensive lineman, and that would have worked. I supported that.
Well, it worked for the Vikings.
Yeah, it did. And then who was it? The Packers that got was it Jari? No, it wasn't Jari Evans. Who? The
Packers got Jari Evans. The TJ Lang went to the Lions. That's the one that the Seahawks missed out on.
There you go. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, TJ Lang, this is it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, I'm going to stay in Detroit. I was like,
catfish. I know. Oh, well, one of the things, Sam, that Darrell Bevell seemed to develop, especially this year, is a bad playbook that he used for the first half. And then he seemed to shift toward the good playbook late in the second quarter and into the second half. Did you notice any shifting between good and bad playbooks with Schottenheimer?
I truthfully didn't look at it that closely in the sense of, did he have a first half and a second half, or like his 2-minute offense or anything like that? Mine was more, from what I wanted to study, was more, what will this offense conceivably look like? Like, what would a typical first down look like, and how would he follow that up with a second down if he got the yards or didn't get the yards?
Yeah.
From all the people that have made some negative comments about Schottenheimer, a lot of Jets fans, a lot of Rams fans, a lot of Georgia fans, they aren't exactly happy about, or they're not proud of this signing. As it's funny to me, because when I look at signings around the league and I say, did this coach sign with this team? And then I say, does that make me angry? None of the opposing Seahawks fans, no people that don't like the Seahawks, they were like, okay, they're going to be average or whatever.
Yeah.
They weren't mad about this. They weren't.
That's a bad sign for us. It's a bad sign.
It's a very bad sign. But I don't know. I think there is a silver lining in the sense that my hope is that he's learned since his days with the Rams. And my hope is that with an offense that has arguably more talent than the Rams did, and definitely a better quarterback, much better quarterback, my hope is he can do better things with it. The question is, how much is he going to adapt to what Bevell did? Because I mean, Bevell is actually a big proponent of vertical passing as well. Mm-hmm. Except for he realized that he had to add in the quick game and more designed bootlegs for Russell Wilson, because he realized, he's like, all right, the offensive line is not going to hold it. So what can I do? I can get Russell Wilson on the move, or I can just have him get rid of the ball after 3 steps. I have a strong feeling that Brian Schottenheimer is going to have to adapt and do that. I just can't see it being as pure vertical as what I saw from the Rams.
Well, and I think back to the Rams, and I don't remember them having a ton of success either. And again, that goes back to the caliber of players, maybe more so than the scheme.
Yeah, I think I don't want to get them off the hook here, because I think a lot of it does fall on coaching.
Yeah,
and I think even though you can say there's a talent disparity, I think they're all NFL players, and they're all everyone is still talented. That's why they made the NFL. But I also do kind of blame Jeff Fisher in the sense that it seems like every year they grabbed a defensive lineman. It's
right.
Like Aaron Donald and Robert Quinn, and then they chose Tavon Austin of all wide receivers to draft.
And Greg Robinson at left tackle. When they did draft offensive line, they drafted poorly.
I wasn't surprised that Greg Robinson failed. I guess I was more surprised that he failed so hard. It wasn't even that he was bad. He was really bad.
Well, I've seen you breaking down some of the college guys too, with the combine coming up, with the draft coming up. I'm curious about your thoughts on Georgia running back Nick Chubb, because we talked to Rob Staten last week, SeahawksDraftBlog.com, And he talked about Chubb a little bit as a potential guy that the Seahawks could go after.
Did he like?
He did. He liked Chubb as a potential mid-round candidate, based off his injury history, thinking that he might slide and maybe be available, maybe late second, third round type of area. But one of our listeners, Cameron Cole, thinks that Chubb's wildly overrated. So I'm curious to get your take.
I like Chubb. I don't think he's a first round, and I don't think he's a second round player this year.
Okay.
I think he'll get picked somewhere in the third round. I think there is so much talent in this draft class, whether that be obviously Saquon Barkley is the dream, and then the underrated guy is Darius Geis. I mean, that dude can fly. So you have two running backs, two very top tier running backs, in my opinion, those guys, and then you have a bunch of guys that are considered second round players. Those are the Sony Michel, who's also another Georgia running back. And then you have a guy that I personally really like is Akram Wadley from Iowa. Mm-hmm. And he's small, but man, if you're a listener, go on YouTube, type in Akram Wadley highlights, and you're going to see some crazy stuff out there. It's spins, it's Madden style jukes that you think he just C-sticked and he got over there. You just don't understand it. And it's like I like Wadley a lot. Do I think he fits with the Seahawks? I mean, he could be used, but they have J.D. McKissick, so they don't really need him. I do think that Chubb would be an interesting fit though on the Seahawks though. If they don't like Mike Davis and they just don't trust Thomas Rawls either, which I don't think they do.
Plus, he's a restricted free agent, so they're going to have to make a decision on him whether or not to put a tender on him. And I don't see him coming back this year. Darius Geis is an interesting name though, because Todd McShay, he mocked Geis to the Seahawks a while back, and more of a power running back player, played for LSU. What are your thoughts on him as far as a potential first round pick? Because I know a lot of people, they cringe at the idea of taking a running back in the first round, but I have to think that if it's people. It has to be an impact type guy like Saquon Barkley. If he fell to 18, that would be a no brainer, right?
It's Saquon. There's very few times I will ever take a running back in the first. Like Christian McCaffrey, for example, I did not even have him as a first round grade last year. I had him as an early second round pick,
and he went top 10.
Yeah, and he went top 10, and that's not because I'm wrong, or that's because I didn't like him. I loved him. He was one of my favorite players. I chronically don't value the running back position as a first round thing, and maybe it's gotten to the point where it's an underrated position. I don't know about that, but I'd rather every single draft either get a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman in the first round. Just do that back and forth every single year, and I think you can build a team from the ground up that way. But Geis, to me, I like him a lot. I think there's a good chance he's going to be the second running back off the board, and I think there's a good chance he's going to go somewhere in that 15 to 20 mark, depending on how he runs at the combine.
Interesting.
So I mean, he could be Seahawks running back if they really like him, but he could also fall to the end of the first just because the position is, there's a lot of talent this year in the position. I don't know. It'll be a really interesting year to see where all these running backs go and what teams actually think of them.
Well, an end of the first to me makes more sense anyway, with the Seahawks not having a second or a third round pick, just based on their history and knowing John Schneider liking to pick in those second and third rounds. And when you have the talent that you do in the draft, you want to have more of those picks in the second and third round. So I see him trading back, and it would really surprise me, one, if they stayed put at number 18. And if they did stay put at number 18, it would probably be more for a pass rusher versus taking a running back.
Yeah, and there aren't many good offensive linemen this year again, except for like Quentin Nelson. Like, I mean, if he fell to 18, I mean, he's your pick.
Yeah.
He's such a good guard out of Notre Dame. But I don't think he's going to fall that far. I think he's a top 10 pick, or maybe top 12 if you factor in all the quarterbacks. I don't see there being a great offensive lineman this year that's going to force him to stay put. I see a trade back as well. And if you trade it back, you can go and maybe you trade back to the early second. Maybe you can actually pick up a running back, and then you can also grab somebody else there. Let's see, it's 900 points. You're getting back to, if you went back to early to mid second, you can get two early to mid second round picks, which is honestly, I see that as being a better choice than staying put at 18, unless someone premier falls to you.
Yeah, you can't pass up, especially with the way Pete Carroll's been able to. I think back of taking Earl Thomas where he did. With Pete Carroll knowing defensive backs the way he does, if he sees a potential future Hall of Fame type talent at defensive back, he can't move back from that.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm just curious if that's like a Josh Jackson, because Josh Jackson is supposed to be in that kind of that mid-teens, early 20 type guy. Maybe he's that guy to play opposite of Griffin if Sherman can't do it. I'm really interested to see where Griffin's brother's going to go. Yeah, I know that we as Seahawks fans, I think we'd like to see the brothers stay together. I'm also curious to see what position he's going to play at the NFL level, because for a defensive end type, linebacker, a pass rushing linebacker, he's a little bit on the light side. There's a rumor that he can run like a 4.5 40 or something like that. I don't know the truth beyond that. I doubt it. But if he can run in the 4.5 area, 4.6 area, I mean, I would consider playing him at like a Sam outside linebacker position. Just the question is, how early is he going to go for it to be an impact player, or are you going to use him as, is he more like a 5th or 6th round guy? Right. Just because you don't know what he can actually do.
Well, yeah, I think back to when Honey Badger was in the draft and slid down. What did he slide to the 4th round? Yeah, because he was kind of maybe it was the 3rd, but he was kind of that in between type position player, and he's done well for the Cardinals. So I don't know. It's tough to account for just what a guy has inside of him that you can't measure,
right? And the intangibles are by far the hardest part, and that's the one thing as like NFL draft enthusiasts, we can't ever know what this guy does off the field, and we don't know what he's like because we don't get to talk to him. All we get to see is YouTube stuff, and maybe if you're lucky, you get college all 22. You don't get to see how he interacts with his coaches or teammates or anything. And so I don't know. It's at that point you kind of have to just rely on what other scouts say, and then at that point it just turns into, oh, this scout said this, so therefore I believe it, and therefore I like it.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's always such a hard game this time of the year.
Well, it at least keeps us entertained through the offseason, Sam. And I appreciate you coming on and helping breaking down, looking at that Brian Schottenheimer film with the Rams. It was interesting here recently with the news coming out that all of the offensive coordinator jobs had been filled. And I know neither of us are all that excited about Schottenheimer. And the idea that now Darrell Bevell, from all accounts, it looks like he's not going to be an offensive coordinator this year. And that part surprises me, to go as long as he has with the Seahawks and then to not end up with a job is a little surprising to me.
It's very surprising. He's a top 10 coordinator in the sense of his DVO rankings, 2013, 2014, 2015. They're top 10. And you could say, oh, he got Russell Wilson. But I mean, his offenses have looked good for certain parts. Like sure they do get stale, but it's obviously hard to do that when you don't have an offensive line. And I'm a Bevell apologist in the sense that I actually wanted them to keep Bevell and just get rid of Cable and then hire Solari like that.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that. I could have lived with that and still been excited for next year. I didn't think that there really needed to be a drastic change.
Agreed. Definitely agreed.
Well, Sam, this seems like a downer now.
Yeah. All right. So here's some positives.
All right. Yeah. Let's leave on a positive, Sam.
You ready for the positives?
I'm ready.
He got the Rams in the low 20s in rankings for offense with Austin Davis and Sean Hill. That's if that's not a positive, I don't know what a positive is.
And no running backs of note.
He made Zach Stacy and Trey Mason look really good for a season.
Okay, I'll take that. I will take that, Sam. You know what? That's a good way to leave.
I'm taking that as well. That's all I got.
Well, definitely check it out. You can check the show notes. I'll have a link to the article on field goals, link to your Twitter account, Sam, at Samuel R. Gold, and patreon.com/Samuel R. Gold as well. If people want to go there, they can donate. And if they donate at a certain level, you will break down a player for them. They get the choice.
Yep, they do. And so I have some players lined up already. Ironically, 49ers fans. I got a couple 49ers videos coming up, and not as many Seahawks videos because people have not been asking for them.
We need to fix that.
Yeah, that or a prospect too, because it's now NFL draft season. Either way.
All right. Well, cool. Well, definitely check it out. And Sam, thanks again for coming back on the show.
Yeah, sure thing. And thanks again for having me, guys.
Well, thanks to Samuel Gold for coming back on the show. My main takeaway from this, Adam, no more bubble screens. Schottenheimer, not a bubble screen guy.
Well, that's music to my ears, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, if you go back to our last interview with Sam, he kind of broke down why a team would run the bubble screen. And one of the things I liked here is him kind of breaking down and explaining the difference between inside zone runs versus outside zone. It's we don't go into that kind of depth very often, but it's interesting to me sometimes to hear it from guys who really focus in on that kind of thing.
On the X's and O's for sure.
Yeah.
And Sam's great at that. So appreciate him coming on and sharing his insight. I've really enjoyed having the field goal guys on here the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully we can do some more of that. I like them.
Helping us get through the off season for sure. The one surprising thing, and we touched on this a little bit with Sam, Darrell Bevell out of an OC job now that all the offensive coordinator jobs are filled. I guess he had the potential. I guess he was going to be the Colts offensive coordinator until McDaniels decided to stay with New England. So I guess congratulations to Frank Reich for making a quantum leap into Robert Kraft's body to offer McDaniels an offer he couldn't pass up.
Are you mad at McDaniels for turning his back on the Colts?
No, it doesn't. Yeah. We talked a little bit about it last week. It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Frank Reich being a coach, that's kind of cool.
I love that. I was a huge Frank Reich fan.
I know he would be.
Yeah.
He had one of the greatest performances in the playoffs as a backup quarterback.
The greatest comeback in playoff history. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember that game.
I remember being like 11 and watching that game at halftime. What were they down? Like 32?
Yeah, it was like 30 points.
27? Yeah, something like that. And I remember crying at like halftime. My dad walks through and like flippantly says, "Why are you still watching this? They're getting crushed." I'm like, "Shut up, they're going to come back." And like, it was Frank Reich, no Jim Kelly, that Bills team. And they came storming back and they beat former Seahawk Hall of Famer Warren Moon. Yeah.
It was 28-3 at halftime. And then it went to 35-3 before, because Reich threw an interception.
Yeah.
And they scored another touchdown. So it was 35-3 after a pick by Reich. And then he brings them all the way back.
That's a dude who led a huge comeback in college, too, when he played for Maryland.
Yeah.
Just in his DNA.
41-38, the final score in that game. So 32. Yeah, it's still the 32-point comeback. Yeah.
So he's an OC and Bevell is not. Look,
Reich is the head coach now.
Oh, is he the head coach for
the Colts?
Indy?
Yeah.
That's a good hire for them.
I think so.
Yeah. But, with Bevell being out this year, look, just do what every NFL coach does, like after you get fired, for the most part. Take a year off. Like all the warts on your resume seem to like just disappear after a year. Everybody forgets. And all of a sudden, like you're back in talks, the next offseason, like every article that comes up for an OC
this is going to be the first name.
He's going to be the first name. This isn't bad for him. Take a year off, dude. Like relax, enjoy the fam. It's not like he's been scraping by on food stamps this whole time. Like Bevs is okay for a year.
That's true.
I promise you that. Do some media hits. Bring your name up. Be the first one on the list of everybody's list next year. Get paid. And go on your merry way. That's how the coaching merry-go-round goes in the NFL. That's how it works.
Yeah, he's going to be all right. It's weird to me that Jeremy Bates is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Jets and Darrell Bevell doesn't have a job. That doesn't make sense to me.
All right, Brandon, before we go to Prisco's world, you want to go fishing?
Let's go fishing.
I think that the Seahawks need to go fishing. for Seabass.
Seabass. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sebastian Janikowski cut from the Raiders after 18 years.
He's 40 years old. I know what you're going to say. His leg's about to fall off. But Adam Vinatieri's still kicking. Like the one position in football that you look at, and if you're an extreme talent at that position that you can play probably till your 50s if you're motivated to, is kicker. It's absolutely true. He can still boot it forever, taking one step and kicking it. He can. He's a transcendent talent at that position. Yeah. Your Seahawks, if we'd had Seabass last year, we'd been in the playoffs last year.
Well, he was injured last year.
I understand that, but a healthy Sebastian Janikowski. That's the first time I can remember him missing a significant part of a season.
I wonder how much that injury was bothering him before he went out, because I know his accuracy past 50 wasn't great that season. Yeah.
Look at his career and then tell me that one blip at the end when he was injured is something to be concerned about. There's enough body of evidence here for me to be able to make an informed decision about this. And if you think he's going to be an ounce worse than Blair freaking Walsh?
No way. There's no way he's worse.
You can get him at the veteran minimum. You don't have to worry. You just signed Seabass and you're like, kicker's handled.
Yeah, if they signed him, if they paid Sebastian Janikowski what they paid Blair Walsh last year, I wouldn't have any problem.
None.
Because then you bring him into camp and you see what he has in the preseason. If it doesn't look like it's going to work out, then fine.
Yeah.
But who else are you going to get?
I've been a huge Sebastian Janikowski fan for a long time.
And you can have him for 2 years, and then you can get Glasses McKicker when he finally comes out from Georgia.
There you go. That'd make all of our listeners who are Dogs fans super happy. I know that for sure. Yeah. Glasses McKickers.
I think that's his official name.
I want Seabass as a Seahawk. Let's make it happen.
Make it happen.
Now, tell me that's a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea.
You can't double negative me. Disagree.
I can do what I want.
You do what you want.
Hey, if Prisco,
you're right. You're hard, Brandon. You're hard.
If Prisco can do some of the things that he's doing, I can double negative you. And
all right,
when that music starts to pick up, you know it's time. You know it's time, Adam, to take a trip to Prisco's world.
Thank God, I'm ready for a trip. Let's go.
La 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 la, Prisco's world. La 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 la, Prisco's world. Prisco has his hot tastes and nothing more. That's Prisco's world.
All right, so I was reading an article this week by Jay Johnson of the Jags Wire, USA Today.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was breaking down, because sometimes analysts like Pete Prisco will say and do crazy things, and then other media people will write about the crazy things that Pete Prisco says.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how I find some of this stuff. And so on Jags Wire, Jay Johnson writes, after ESPN and NFL Network released their 2018 power rankings, one of the Jacksonville Jaguars radio personalities, Pete Prisco. Oh, he's an actual radio personality for the Jaguars? I didn't know this.
No.
I don't know.
Does he live there?
Does he do like commentary? Like,
I have no clue.
I'm curious.
This is a whole other side of Pete I've never seen. I mean, I'll find out about that.
Okay, well, it says one of the Jacksonville Jaguars radio personalities, Pete Prisco, chimed in with his own power rankings via CBS Sports. As an analyst well-informed on the Jags, he slotted them at number 4. It's worth noting that Prisco stated prior to the power rankings that the Jags, along with the New Orleans Saints and Minnesota Vikings, have pending situations at quarterback, which may be why they weren't ranked higher. So one, they're complaining about the Jags being number 4 and how they should be higher, and Prisco is hedging against this. But at this point of the season, Adam, it is February. It is the middle of February.
Yeah.
Why are we doing power rankings? We have no idea how these teams are going to look, especially teams like this where he rattles off the Jags, the Saints, the Vikings. You can put the Broncos in that category. You can put the Cardinals there. You have no idea how these teams are going to look at the most important position on the roster.
Oh, hell, I think it's time to do power rankings. Yeah. Hell, we might as well go through game by game of their schedule, too, and predict wins and losses.
Yeah, we know the opponents, right? So we can just go opponent by opponent, even though the weeks don't matter, right?
Yeah, I mean, hell, this is a perfect time of year to do that because, I mean, you're operating with the same lack of information as you are, say, the fact that you don't know what their starting quarterback is going to be. It's asinine. Look, and not only that, but Jags fan, you're crying about being number 4? You should be elated. Do you not remember the last 15 years? I mean, I get it if you've selectively forgotten it.
But top 5, you should be pretty happy.
Exactly.
Especially considering the questions at quarterback. But the problem I have, there's no reason to have power rankings before free agency, before the NFL draft. Before the season, I get it. Power rankings are mildly interesting leading into the season to see how different analysts think your team stacks up against other teams. They're useless, but I get it. I at least get it at that time of year. Mid-February? I don't get it. Like, there's so much that still needs to happen between the start of the season. Why? Why go through it? Pete, I know the NFL Network and ESPN did their power rankings, but just mock the fact that they're going through this ridiculous exercise. You don't have to put your 2 cents in.
Or you make a power ranking and you rank every single team 32nd. Or you rank them first, every single team.
Sure.
And just mock the whole process.
That's what I do.
Well, that's how things are in Prisco's world, man.
Ridiculous. Every time.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Sense be gone.
What do you say we move on and welcome some new members of the flock?
I really liked it when that happens. That makes me very happy.
Yeah. We got one new member this week. Yannick Meisner, officially member of the flock with a $3 pledge from Regensburg, Germany.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man.
Yannick checks in, says, I've been listening to you two for several seasons and enjoy every second of your podcast. Today, I was studying in the library of my university while listening to your podcast. I studied law. It was then that I realized how often your podcast makes waiting or learning easier. That's why I wanted to give you a little something in return and why I'm now a proud new member of the flock. Keep up the good work and go Hawks. Greetings from Germany, from Yannick.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. That really speaks to the value for value proposition that we work on here.
Right. Yeah.
We we help you out, you know.
We don't make you pay for the show. We get to put out the show and you get to decide, oh, you know what? This is actually worth something. This brings value to my life.
Correct.
And you can turn it around and you can tell us what you think it's worth. And
exactly. It can be $0. It could be $100,000 a month. Right. Whatever it is that you feel comfortable donating to the show, we'll take.
$100,000 a month would get you that electric bike that you've been looking at.
Yes. I'm obsessed with these things. Like I want one really badly, but I might have to wait 2 years for the price to come down a little more for the faster ones. I'm not going to get one that only goes 25 miles an hour. I want to get one that does like 40 or 50.
See, now I always thought an electric bike was a motorcycle. Like, isn't that the same thing? Has two wheels.
Motorcycles have engines. Like internal combustion motors.
Well, Prius has an engine.
And no pedals.
But it runs off electricity.
Right. So it's still a car. Like, the electric bike has a little electric motor on it. It's still a bike. So there's two ways that they work. Like, you can turn on the battery and they have like a pedal assist mode. Mm-hmm. So as you're pedaling, the electric motor kicks in as well. And it's almost like putting on like an exoskeleton suit or something. It makes you like, stronger. Like, it makes you have the assist of the motor.
So you could be pedaling and going 30 miles an hour.
Correct.
Well, that's kind of fun.
And not breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
Just out for a Sunday ride. Right?
I could see the appeal to that. That seems kind of fun.
And you can just ride around on them with the throttle without pedaling at all. And since it's a bicycle, you can go behind locked gates. You can go on bike paths. You can go anywhere. Nobody can give you no crap about nothing. Mm. And in the zombie apocalypse, you could still charge it with your own solar panels if you're thinking on a survival level. It's the ultimate survival vehicle.
And that's exactly where your mind's at. I know you're always worried about the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, if you mean by zombies, like, the rest of the American population and like, this whole thing coming down, crashing upon our heads.
Worry about that.
Yeah, I worry about those things. I may have some beans and rice saved up is all I'm saying. See, after the last episode, when we got more feedback about our car talk and appliance talk than anything else,
we're bringing it back.
I feel like these are the things people actually want to listen to.
That's what they care about.
It's hilarious, man. You guys are great. I'm always stunned as to what are the things that people like latch onto, and we get multiple messages about.
Golden Girls talk, appliance talk.
That's seeped into your other friends groups now.
I know.
Like the Golden Girls, you're not escaping B. Arthur forever.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
If you die before me, I will go to your grave every year and put a B. Arthur portrait on your grave as tribute.
Oh, play the whole Golden Girls theme song at my funeral. Thank you for being a friend.
Awesome. All right, man. I'm in.
Wouldn't that be fitting?
This sounds great. Yeah, that'll be a tearjerker.
Yeah.
People will love it.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's probably why James McCarthy gave us a raise this last week from 3 to 6 to get into the Ring of Honor.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the Ring of Honor. I will check in sporadically there.
Okay. So you're not totally out.
I wasn't trying to be a diva last week. I was just saying I was thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I think the cool thing is that I saw some actual brainstorming as to what could Adam get into that wasn't Facebook, but still be involved, like Discord or Slack, things that people use on their phone to chat, but not be a part of that. To be a part of Facebook.
I don't know. I thought about just putting my email on the Ring of Honor. If anybody wanted to talk to me, they could just shoot me an email.
Shoot you an email, text.
Yeah, like people.
I get
when
it.
people just talk one-on-one to one another,
That works.
Because they care and they want to have a real conversation like that.
Like that.
I don't know. But yeah, so no, I'll keep it up. But I'm definitely going to check in sporadically, but I'll be looking for James, though.
Well, it's good to hear you're not going totally away, but it was good to see some understanding. Like, people go, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what everybody had to say. You guys are all great in the Ring of Honor, man. I love you guys.
Oh, one other thing that came up this last week in terms of value for value, Adam. I had one of our members of the flock reach out to us offering a potential donation in cryptocurrency.
Well, sure, because it's all fake.
Yeah, I'm totally in on this. I don't care what you think on this, but
we're going to go to jail if we participate in this Ponzi scheme.
No, it's fine.
Oh, the IRS is starting to crack down on these cryptocurrencies, man. Like the government is starting to take notice, and they are not going to let just random currency take over for their currency. That will not happen.
Oh yeah, I'll figure out how to claim it. That's fine.
I'm just saying, be careful. If you start seeing black vans drive past your house and shit,
then I'll start to worry. Then I'll dump it.
Give me a call. Give me a call. Bring my zombie apocalypse bike over.
Yeah,
and we'll escape into the woods.
I know you're out, but that's fine.
It's fine.
He actually hadn't heard your rant on it yet. I explained that there would be a rant coming up in his feed because it was about 2 weeks ago when you kind of went off on it. So
sorry, man. I didn't mean to crap on your deal. I just think it's a bad idea.
Right.
Buy silver.
Oh, you know what I want to do before we get moving on? I want to give something away.
Oh, really?
Well, all
right, give it away now.
We had all these people register their Pick'em team names, and we gave away prizes to the top people. We gave away prizes to people that finished at the top each week. But I feel like there's a lot of people out there that participated. I want to hand out a participation trophy.
Okay, all right. How very millennial of you.
I know.
But I'm in. Yeah.
I got to digging through my prize vault, and I got prizes out to the top 5 or 6 folks. That reminds me. Yeah, Katie checked in from number 5.
Yes.
And she's getting an Earl Thomas autographed photo. So for our 5th place winner, Katie checked in. That was cool.
Oh, wonderful. Well, good. Well, thanks for checking in, Katie.
I was going through my prizes and I realized I had 2 autographed Kurt Warner items. So depending on who gets selected here, if it's someone from overseas, they're going to get a mini helmet. If it's somebody in the United States, they're going to get a jersey, just for shipping cost purposes.
All right.
And
what are you taking, like caller 3 or something? Like, how are you deciding this?
I have it hooked up to my Echo, and so the computer's going to decide.
How does this work? What do you mean it's hooked up to your Echo and it's going to decide? How does it even know who's eligible?
Computer, pick a number between 117 and 303.
Your random number between 117 and 303 is 298.
298. Eddie Lacy gift receipt. Eddie Lacy should have come with a gift receipt.
Absolutely. Just on name alone, all right, Echo chose correctly.
Yeah. So
Eddie Lacy's gift receipt needs a Kurt Warner jersey. That was great.
Samuel Gelber. And I do know he's in the U.S., so Samuel is going to get a Kurt Warner signed jersey.
All right. Sam's been with us for quite a while, so that works out great.
I'm glad I'm one prize fewer.
One prize lighter?
Yeah. Which means it's going to be an off-season now of getting prizes for next year. It'll be fun.
You know, one of the cool things about all you folks on Patreon and being in the flock and everything, that's what gives us the ability to go out and buy this stuff. And let me tell you something. Brandon gets a lot of joy shopping for this stuff.
I don't need this stuff, but I like to shop for it.
I'm not banging you, man. This is out of praise. Like it's a cool part of the process for us, and especially for Brandon, because you kind of get to scratch that itch to buy Seahawks memorabilia.
Yeah,
and then we give it away.
It works out perfectly.
Yeah, I love it. So thank you to all of you in the flock.
Thank you. Oh, that reminds
all you little flockers are the best.
Well, now that we've given away some prizes, let's get on to some Do Better and Better Life.
Yeah, this will be a prize for everybody listening. So who you got for Do Better?
All right, my Do Better this week. You know, I'm not a huge fan of YouTube comments.
No way.
Yeah, it's weird. But we did get actually on our YouTube channel where we post our episodes, generally the comments are pretty positive. And this wasn't completely negative either, but it had to do with some of your SpaceX commentary last week, Adam.
Oh, did I misquote?
No, it's just the fact that you got some joy out of the SpaceX situation was, I guess, reason for certain listeners to be unimpressed.
Who doesn't love SpaceX?
And apparently you can't trust your judgment anymore. It says SpaceX stuff was fake-ish. Catfish! Can't trust your judgment anymore.
That's awesome. Hey, look, man, when we started putting the show up on YouTube, like the nastiest comment section anywhere on the internet, I'm convinced is YouTube.
Usually YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, like the nastiest.
Yeah.
So, like, for that to be like one of the more negative things, like I'll take that
it's funny
all day.
It's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we bang on flat earth truthers quite a bit on this show. And
look, here's the thing: if you're a flat earther, ask yourself one question: when the moon is not full, when it's the opposite, right?
Yeah. When
it's a new moon,
yeah.
What shape is that moon? Is there a semicircle of a shadow that goes across the moon?
Yeah.
You know what that shadow's from? The freaking Earth. If it was flat, it would be a straight line, not a curved line. Like there is your evidence right there.
You see, this just goes to your ignorance on how flat Earth theory works, Adam.
Oh, right.
Because those are just disks spinning around above us.
What discs? Alien discs?
The sun and moon discs.
Well, that's fine. So basically our flat disk or our flat Earth like produces a curved shadow on the moon.
And besides, our flat Earth could be disc shaped. You don't know.
That doesn't make any sense either.
Well, you haven't put enough thought into it, obviously, because and
why? Because I like focusing on things that are like, I don't know, freaking real that hasn't been debunked for like 5,000 years.
Well, and so it goes back to, I think, why a lot of people look at the SpaceX stuff and think that it looks fake. Because one of the problems that I notice, especially on YouTube, that people had a problem with is you had the camera mounted to the car in space.
Yeah.
Well, there was one point in the video where the Earth does a little bit of judder. And I think it's because people don't know how digital transmission of data works. But to them, they think it's a green screen and that was some kind of a judder in the actual program. And they think that so they absolutely think that it's fake. Well, what happens when you mount a camera onto a stationary object? Mm-hmm. You think of it this way: when there's digital transmission of data going on, the thing that's stationary, the camera could be lazy because it knows that it's producing that data. It's fixed. It doesn't have to keep looking there to change it. But the Earth in the background is actually rotating, and there's some movement there. And so the camera actually has to work to track that and to transmit it. So when that happens, that's where you get some digital artifacts if it's not tracking perfectly. And for the most part, it was tracking really well.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. In fact, I think it could have, the fact that it looks so good threw a lot of people off. Mm-hmm. But that just goes to show you how good technology has gotten with data transmission.
Right.
That it could work as well as it did. But you know what? I have to explain this.
I only have one more question.
Sure.
What if you're a flat earther?
Yeah.
What is the gain? What is the big gain that they, quote unquote, get by continuously trying to trick us all into thinking the world is round?
Right.
Like, what is the big, like, aha moment, like, that they, this isn't like a JFK conspiracy where you can be like, so they get away with the crime, or, big bank cartels or, whatever, like, whatever your conspiracy theory is, or 9/11, whatever your conspiracy theory is, right? There's like something that everybody gets and gains out of it, the people behind it. What did Galileo gain from that? Like, what's Elon Musk gaining from that? What's the federal government gaining from?
The Illuminati can prove to us how much more superior they are by keeping us in the dark.
Right. There it is, of course. I can't believe I didn't see that.
I told you haven't put enough thought into this, Adam. Maybe you're right. The one who needs to do better.
Right. I want to find the basement where all of the team, because there's obviously a crack elite level Photoshop team that is assembled in a basement somewhere that produces all of the fake images for space. Like it's one go-to, like maybe it's in Roswell or something.
There can't be a lot of people that do it. You have to have a very specific team.
Yeah, because loose lips sink ships.
Yeah.
And you get too many people involved and So I want to meet those guys.
That would be a cool crew to be a part of.
Yeah.
And with it's funny to me because with the SpaceX stuff, they actually did launch. There was a launch. People attended it. And then there was even the rockets that came back down, and seeing the video of that, of the rockets coming back down and landing. That was kind of some future trippy looking stuff.
It's all fake.
It's all fake. Well, I don't know how that part can be fake.
Who is that? What's the user handle here for flat earther man who doesn't trust my judgment no more?
Oh, he actually just uses his name, says Ryan Scarborough.
Oh, well, Ryan Scarborough, sorry, not sorry. And
do better.
Yeah, do better. If you're going to go negative, get real negative.
That was the tipping point for him not to be able to trust your judgment anymore.
That was the one. It's not all the other dubious advice.
The fact that you didn't think it was fake now it has him questioning your judgment.
I am definitely part of the sheeple. There is no doubt about that. I never question anything.
I know.
All right, man. My do better also has to deal with fake imagery to a degree.
Oh.
My do better this week is for Trout Unlimited CEO Chris Wood. And I don't know during the Super Bowl, Brand, if you paid attention to all the commercials, but my favorite, because I'm a Jeep enthusiast.
Yeah.
I love Jeeps. I've always owned a Jeep. I will always own a Jeep. Hooray Jeeps. Was a commercial towards the end of the Super Bowl for Jeep. And it was entitled The Anti-Manifesto. And basically it went like this, something along the lines of, there's a Jeep Wrangler, starts to cross like a pond. And it's like, you hear all sorts of these car companies talk about what it feels to drive the car and things like that. They call it a manifesto. And then the Jeep just tears up like a little waterfall, like a little mini creek waterfall, and just climbs it like it's nothing. There's just a pause while it's doing that. It's quiet. And the announcer just goes, there's your manifesto. And I was like, drop the mic. There you go. Exactly. There's your manifesto if you're a Jeep owner, you go where you want. You do what you want. They didn't need to put it in flowery terms, anything like that. Well,
so you're driving through my clean water. Thanks.
All right, Chris Wood. So here's the problem. In fairly large type on the bottom of the screen, it says this is a fake course or a fake waterfall in a fake pond. Something along those lines. I mean, something that's very clear that this is just a privately owned little water feature. This isn't part of the greater, say, Upper Yellowstone watershed or some catfish like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris Wood comes out And he says that it's damaging because people are watching this and they don't see the disclaimer. And what they saw was a template for off-highway driving that's bad news for fish, wildlife, and people who enjoy streams and rivers. They drove right up the middle of the stream. They effectively reamed the stream and glorified it. It's about the worst thing you can do to a stream. Hey, Chris, catfish! Duh, all right? Like, I'm the type of person that goes out and takes my Jeep out in the woods. You know what I'm not going to do? Drive up the middle of a stream like that. Like, if you just look at the course itself, if you were to pick a line for the easiest way to get up that, there's a way easier line to the left. It was just to look cool for a commercial on a fake closed course that they stated was a fake closed course. Take your fake outrage and go run your stupid little organization. Chris Wood of Trout Unlimited. Do better.
See, I didn't even know that this was a story. I hadn't seen Chris Wood's news release on this, but I am so dialed in to the mind of fake outrage people that I knew exactly when you said what the commercial was, that what the outrage would be over.
Right.
I knew it.
It's an absolute joke.
You know what my favorite commercial was?
No.
Peter Dinklage rapping Busta Rhymes for Doritos, for the Doritos ad.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a Game of Thrones person, so that doesn't.
Oh, yeah. I'm not either.
I enjoyed Morgan Freeman a little more.
I like Busta Rhymes more.
Oh, okay. What was Morgan Freeman doing? Because they were back to back, those ads.
Yeah, he was doing Missy Elliott's.
Yep, there
song.
it is.
Yeah.
Yep. And I enjoy Missy Elliott.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's maybe why they did those commercials back to back and tied them in that way.
Maybe. I made my daughter listen to some Missy Elliott the other day.
Oh, yeah?
On YouTube. Not impressed.
No? Have her listen to some Busta Rhymes instead.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's it.
Maybe she's just not a Missy Elliott fan.
I haven't found out what she's a fan of yet. She's 14.
She's 14 and she's not dialed into some kind of music?
The only thing that I know for certain is the only thing that she's really a fan of is the eye roll.
I can see that.
All right, man. Moving on to Better at Life.
Who you got?
My Better at Life this week is for a certain young lady who's a member of the California Girl Scouts. She is a genius and a scholar, and she will be an amazing businesswoman when she grows up. They didn't give her name because she's obviously a minor. This young lady, while selling Girl Scout cookies, decided to go and set up next door to the legalized weed shop called Urban Leaf.
Oh, nice. Smart.
She sold 300 boxes of Girl Scout cookies in 6 hours.
Yes.
Raised $1,500. She's a genius. Tell me there's better marketing than that. Like, where should I sell cookies? How about next to the munchie-inducing store?
Yeah.
Now, some people have panned this, and they've come back and said that that's endangering a child.
Oh, fake outrage! Here comes the fake outrage.
Good Lord! You know who's going to those marijuana places? 60-year-old grandmas for their arthritis medication with glaucoma,
right?
And let's say it's some dude faking a back injury, right? And he's 31, and he just wants his weed, right?
Yeah.
Is that the most chill guy you've ever met? Like, go sit next to a legal weed store for like a week and tell me about all the violence that springs up around it.
Some of these places are in really nice parts of the town.
Yes. Yeah, it's unbelievable to me.
Don't make it out to be like she's setting it up in front of some drug dealer's house.
That's how they make it out to be.
Yeah.
So to debunk them, I make this young lady, this very ingenuitive Girl Scout, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Ah, there you go. Well, my Better at Life has to do with feeding the hungry as well.
Oh.
My Better at Life goes to Craig Terrell and Chef John Howie, who it was recently announced just about a week or so ago that they led the Seahawks Kick Hunger Challenge. All the NFL teams take a part in this challenge, and the Seahawks have come out on top for the 4th time in 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's dominance. That's a ending hunger dynasty.
I know. And so in these past 6 years, the Seahawks Kick Hunger Challenge team raised $770,000 for Food Lifeline.
Holy crap.
The Seahawks news release says that it's enough to provide 3.5 million meals to those in need around Western Washington.
That's amazing.
Isn't that cool?
Yes.
So yes, we may not have a Super Bowl dynasty, but our team does have a dynasty when it comes to providing food to those in need. So to Craig Terrell, John Howie for leading the way and making it happen. Better at life than Skip Bayless.
Does it make me a bad person that I would trade those dynasties, I think? Like if you were to ask me deep down.
Yeah.
I might trade. I might trade the ending hunger dynasty for the Super Bowl dynasty.
I know.
I might do it.
Just
I'm
thinking
going straight
about
to
it.
hell, man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what's more important. Like we know what's more important. Like we know, like legitimately, what's the most important thing here is hungry people getting fed.
Yeah. But what's more important to me?
Right. Like on a selfish level.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
More rings, please. Why do they have to be mutually exclusive is what I want to know.
Can we do
Let's
both?
do both. Let's do both.
Let's do both.
I think with that,
There's only one thing left to say.
go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Why the Seahawks need to go fishing?
Yeah, the Seahawks need to go fishing, Brandon. But not just for any kind of fish, a particular species of fish.
Bass.
You're close.
Oh, well, it's a fish, so I don't know how it could be all that far away.
Wait, your guess almost ruined my whole get up. So just that
Stop
sucks.
guessing?
Yeah,
Okay.
stop guessing.
I can get, how about salmon?
Okay, there you go.
Is it salmon a better guess?
Yes, because
Okay.
that doesn't blow up. That doesn't get really close to what I was going to say.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
Yes, I think you do. Woo, drama. Yeah, the suspense of drama is now gone. Thanks a lot. That's called quality podcasting and show production and teasing. Right there.
I don't know very many other species of fish.
You live in Montana. I mean, come on.
Brown trout.
That is technically a fish. Yes. You go brown trout, you go rainbow trout, you go brook trout, you go with golden trout. There's just a few. You could go with walleye, steelhead, tiger muskie, pike, whitefish. Like, I mean, how do you not? Like, geez Louise.